Hello, everyone. How are you doing? And welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show, where we have the discussions that inform, entertain, and empower educators to be the change. I'm your host. I am here with Gretchen Bridgers. It or is it Schulte?
Yeah, Schulte's my maiden name. Bridgers it is.
All right, excellent, excellent. We want to be sure about that. Today, people, talking about becoming an educational consultant. Now, some of you maybe, you've been watching my podcast and you've been checking it out. Like, oh, he got a lot of business stuff going on. Like, I thought this was an educational podcast. But it is. But, one of the reasons I've been doing that, as well as bringing up this podcast, is that in a different economy nowadays, where you got to be on top of your finances. We also live in an era, and then, I'm pretty sure that Gretchen's going to speak to this, but in which there will come a time in life where you are wondering, is this what I am meant to be? And when you're an educator and you go, hey, man, I've gone to school for this thing. I have these degrees. I'm stuck. Other options and opportunities out there for you. So that's part of the reason I've been doing this, because I want you to take charge of your life, and which includes your career. So since I went all out of that, and hopefully that ain't more folks, so you'll still continue to listen. But for those who are watching the show, will you introduce yourself, Gretchen?
Sure. So my name is Gretchen. I have a blog turned podcast and educational resources under the brand name Always a Lesson. So I don't know if you have heard of me. Feel free to go to alwaysalesson.com and we can chat. But basically my story, Dr. Will, if you don't mind if I share a little bit about that as well. I was in the classroom for about 8 years. I taught grades 2nd, 3rd, and 5th. And after that, I worked with the New Teacher Project and I coached new teachers. And then that lit a fire under me in my heart, and I just really wanted to make sure I could help teachers everywhere, not just here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I started providing professional development sessions to schools and districts and creating resources through Teachers Pay Teachers and taking my blog into a podcast to reach everybody else. So I'm kind of doing the Edupreneur thing right now, and it's been so much fun. And like Dr. Will was saying, a lot of us have talent outside of the classroom, and we're trying to figure out how can we utilize this to bless others. And it just so happened I'm kind of in charge of that and figuring out what it looks like for me. Doesn't mean it's for everyone. We certainly need great teachers to remain in the classroom. But through the show today, we're going to talk about some things you can do to get started.
Excellent, excellent. And everyone need a side hustle.
Yeah.
You might not do this full time, but everyone needs a side hustle. Now, you may be married to an engineer. Your money may be stacking like that. You know what I'm saying? But, if you are the average educator,
right?
And I'm not bemoaning what we make, but having that side hustle to get a little extra money on the side goes a long way. Whether you invest it, you save it, or you just enjoy it, having that disposable income on the side, is something that I encourage every individual to do. So, Gretchen, you were a school teacher, right?
Yes.
I'm assuming, you had some great years enjoying yourself. What made you decide to leave the classroom and become a consultant? How did you get started?
For me, it was a lot of frustration in terms of I had a skill set that wasn't being utilized. Being in a 3rd grade and 5th grade classroom with testing, accountability was huge. I felt like I couldn't do my thing and I felt stifled, stymied, and I knew that, hey, I'm not being my best self, which means I'm not helping kids in the way I'm meant to. So I started thinking, how can I do this in a different capacity? What does that look like? It took a lot of soul searching, a lot of tears, a lot of journaling. I started doing PD within my district and thought, hey, I like working with adults. I never thought I would want to. And I love teaching. This is what I'm doing. And I love getting out of the classroom and seeing other people's classrooms and meeting new folks. And it slowly snowballed into me finally being by myself. But for a while, I straddled both and tried to figure out how can I do both things, because I needed the income for my full-time job. But the sense of pride and accomplishment of having your own thing and doing it your own way, oh man, there's nothing like it. And so that kind of motivated me to figure out, okay, how can I make enough to cover the bills, but still be able to enjoy what I'm doing? And it's evolved, and it's a lot of hard work to get out there and get in front of people. For me to get principals to say, yes, I want to hire you to come in and work with teachers, I really focus on improving teachers' effectiveness in the classroom, whether I work one-on-one with them, or I do a PD session, or my webinars I put out there, or my material. So there's different ways I try and reach teachers. But my podcast is all about empowering you to either remain in the classroom or find your niche, because that's what I wish I had. I had nothing but negativity. Just that's the way education was, nothing about really the leadership, but all the demands on us were hard, and everyone was angry and moaning and complaining, and that really wore on me. And I was a leader of my team, and I had a mentee, and I had a student teacher, and I felt like I was always having to be my best, that I never got to recharge. I never got an outlet, and I just needed to finally walk away. It wasn't that it was a bad experience. I just think it was a bad time, and I knew I was missing something. So if you are listening to me share my story and say, yeah, I'm great at teaching, I have the skills, but being in front of the classroom or teaching this grade level is just not it. There's something missing. Listen to that voice, because that is what's going to help you catapult into your potential. You're not going to know what the road's going to look like, and it's scary, and it's a lot of risk taking, but you got to stick your neck out there, and little by little it will reveal itself. Be true to who you are. Don't do anything because it's the big thing in education right now, but do what's right for you.
Awesome. And I'm glad you talked about feeling stymied and hey, I just can't do what I need to do. I'm not feeling right. I don't have flow, in my work. And I'll tell any educator out there, when you are frustrated, I'm not talking about normal day-to-day, frustration with the job, but I mean serious frustration where you cannot leave that stuff at work and you bring it home and it's starting to affect your family. And you can't pray that away. You can't meditate that away. It's time for you to go.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm not saying you need to leave the profession, but you got to make some changes. Now, whether that means you go to another school, you get another position that may better utilize your skills. But in that current situation you're in, you got to go.
Yep.
All right.
Well said.
Throwing it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So what is your day-to-day like, and how did you discover your niche?
Every day is different. What's funny is I loved working with new teachers. Like I said, that was where I started my whole coaching love. And I realized that that's not my niche. It's what I love to do, but it's not what people need right now. People need to know how to coach. So all of a sudden I'm coaching coaches, and that came out of nowhere. But that's when your talent is starting to align, and you have to listen to the need of the people. Those are your customers. And if that's what they want, that's what it is. So I created tons of resources of, hey, when I was coaching, here's all the papers I needed. Here's my tools. Here's my binder. This is my Bible. This is what you're going to need to do. I created a webinar to walk you through everything. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, that's what I'm doing. And I didn't think that that's where this was going to go when I started, but you just got to follow that. And that's where I am right now.
Cool. So please describe the work you do with individual schools and districts. I know you talked about coaching, but in terms of, okay, someone, walk me through a project, what do you do?
So right now I'm working with a district in Wisconsin, and they got a grant. So they used that money to hire me, and they purchased Teach Like a Champion, which is a fantastic book to increase your effectiveness. It's a bunch of techniques that you can use in the classroom. They're small techniques, like one-pagers that you can implement. It's not just for the teachers, for the students too. And so I'm going out there and I present what the technique looks like. I share videos, I'm modeling, and then it's their turn and they have to do these same techniques, and I'm there to coach them and make sure that when they go and work with their staff that they're able to do it with fidelity. And it's really starting to change what's happening in classrooms. So I know we hear this buzzword about rigorous instruction, but it's a lot about how we set up the classroom space and just the vibe of the classroom that determines what we can then do instruction-wise. And so we have to backpedal and really start over with a strong foundation and build up. And a lot of veteran teachers are like, I can't believe I've had to revamp my behavior management plan that I've been using for 20 years. And it's like, yeah, it ain't working, you know, and being able to really work with 21st century learners is hard for people. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Okay. And you just mentioned in the last response how your practice has evolved and you thought, wow, I was going to be doing this with individual teachers, but now I'm actually coaching coaches. So, you know, you offer courses, you sell products on Teacher Pay Teachers, deliver in-person PD, virtual sessions.
Yep.
When someone says, hey, I'm going to give this a go, how do they decide which services and products to offer? And how do you make sure that what you offer aligns with your zone of genius?
Zone of genius. I like it. So for me, everything was step by step. Please don't go out and get a blog and a podcast and start webinars and contacting principals like, whoa, like too much happening. You need to be good at the small things. When the big things come along, you're ready to shine, right? So I started with a blog that helped build my reputation online, helped me connect with people who needed my services. From there, I realized, hey, people are on the go. So I made it a podcast so you could listen to me. From there, again, I'm building that reputation. I'm connecting with people. And I realized, hey, they need a step-by-step guide. So started creating webinars, sharing those out. And then from there, it's like, oh, these people want to talk to me through Google Hangout, just like we are right now. And I'm their personal mentor. They charge me a certain fee for an hour, and we just sit and talk like best friends, and they get a game plan, and then they knock their observation out of the park, or they talk with their principal about a new initiative they want to run out. And so each thing built on top of another one. And so that's what I would say to you is, where can you start today with your current skill set? You got to get out into the virtual land. I wouldn't say, you know, stay in your homeland, because that's probably not where it's going to go well for you. But there's awesome educators online that you can find, especially through Twitter. That's how you and I connected. And Voxer is another one of my favorite things where I know you and I connect there too. And Facebook and Instagram is where a lot of teachers hang out. So if you think that's where your customer might be, start chatting with them, and don't throw like, hey, here's my newest product down their throats, but start commenting on their photos and make a list like, oh, they keep talking about this. That may be where I can help them. I know a little bit about that. And slowly but surely your niche is going to be revealed to you, like mine was. I was all about new teachers, and then I realized new teachers, they're fine. They don't need me right now. They've got their own mentors that are assigned to them. Who needs me are these coaches who this position came out of nowhere and no one really has PD for it. And so that's going to happen to you too. As you start dipping in your toe, you're going to start to see your path.
Cool, cool. And I love how you talked about, hey, until you out there doing your thing, don't get out there and try to conquer social.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, we didn't pay to get our company's website built until we had received several checks, you know, because there was no point in putting up this fancy website if no money was coming in. Right. Now, I will say, look, it's an investment. And when you decide to do this thing, of course, you're going to make some investment. So certain money is going to be coming out in the beginning where you may not get anything back in return. However, be smart about the money that is going out. Right. So now I want to get into pricing. So now this has been very interesting for me. And I'm trying to, you know, get that little balance going, you know, because I had a conversation with one of my homies, you know, when I was first approached about doing this thing, right? I called him up, said, hey man, I said, Eric, man, what should I do? And he was like, look, don't charge too low.
Right.
You know, because you don't want to set the standard for your pay.
Right.
You know, particularly when, you know, if people are like, oh, Gretchen in another school district, you know, calls up and they find out, well, what did you pay Gretchen? And then, oh, so you don't want that low fee to get around. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah.
So, but you don't want, again, to price yourself out of a job as well. So, yeah, you know, talking about money, a lot of educators, they don't want to talk about it. I've even had people on Twitter like, I'm not a brand, I'm a teacher. I said, okay, well, you ain't gotta, I'm not asking you to be Dove or Pepsi Cola, but having that brand, that persona, what people know you about, affects your bottom line. Whether it be, you going from a teacher to an academic coach, or you being a teacher going to a principal, having that what people know you for is valuable.
Right.
So, how should someone go about pricing their products and services?
It's a good question, because I struggled with that. And like you said, there's no one out there that's like, here's the guide to how much you should pay yourself, or ask to be paid. And so for me, let's start with Teachers Pay Teachers. I overpriced. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm going to make it $10, which maybe doesn't sound like a lot, but after browsing through, you start to see a lot of things are kind of under $10. And I thought, okay, great. Crickets. And I was like, all right, something's not right here. So I started looking at other products that were about that price range, $10. Wow, these things were like millions of pages long with graphics. And I'm like, okay, mine is not like that. So what I would suggest is look at your competition and say, okay, they're priced here. I know what I'm able to offer, and then alter it. And it's okay if you change your price. I will say it's easier to go up than it is to go down, because you don't want someone to say, what, wait a minute, you were $30 an hour last week and now you're $20, like you don't know what you're doing. And you'll say, what I tell people is, oh, my fee has increased due to my comfort level, or due to the amount of people I've worked with so far. As your experience increases, so does your price. And so people understand that and they respect it. So if they'll say, hey, I booked you last year and you were only this, say, well, since then I've had the opportunity to work with many folks and I really refined my approach. So this is my new price. And if you say it like that, I think that they're really going to appreciate that. If you're doing a gig like me doing a PD that's all day, I don't charge per hour. I just charge a flat fee per day. And then I ask that they cover my travel. So that's pretty great. But in terms of my other products and services, it's a one-click, meaning it's a one price. And that really depends on how large the item is. If it's a Teacher Pay Teachers, like a couple pages, maybe it's less than $10. But if it's a big webinar where lots of videos are being recorded and I'm giving you resources, maybe it's more like $20 to $50. So it just really depends on what it is. And like I said, the only way you're going to know is to try it. So think about whatever price tag you think it is, put it out there and respond. If no one's buying it, alter your price. If it's selling like hotcakes, you might need to increase it a bit, because you're realizing, it might be a little on the cheap side. But check your competitors. They're going to help you do your framework for your pricing.
Awesome. And I love, like, when I went to your website and doing some research for this podcast, and I saw, virtual sessions. I say, you know what? That's what I need to do, because I'm thinking, with our company, with the virtual sessions, we go, okay, then we can go into a school district. We can deliver that hour and a half session, charge a certain rate.
Right.
If you need some, this comes with a certain amount of follow-up sessions as a package deal, but it saves them on what the face-to-face rate will be. It saves them on hotel. It saves them on travel. It saves them on meals. So I'm thinking, I got to do that. And another thing we're going to be doing is offering online courses. But I'm thinking about switching it up in terms of, because Thinkific as well as Teachable, they have these things where you can set up a subscription model, so we can put in, modules, resources, lesson plans, exclusive podcast interviews with people, and people pay, $10 a month to gain access to that material. So my goal is not only to provide great content for people, but I want to make money while I sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not
that passive income.
Yeah, I'm not in this thing to play around. I don't want my pockets to jingle. I want something to fold. That's what I'm in this. I'm trying to, what I'm saying? Dr. Will, Dr. Bill, that's what I'm trying to do around here. So in most states, and you can be a sole proprietorship, which means that you don't have to file any articles of incorporation. But then, you know, of course, you can incorporate, and you can do that through your state, or you can go pay someone like LegalZoom, like we did. Which structure do you recommend for educational consultants, and which route did you take?
So I'm an LLC, so that means I'm protected under myself, meaning if someone were to come after me for money, that they would get only whatever my business makes. They're not going to come after my house and my car and everything. So that for me felt right. And having something behind your name, like an LLC, is just professional. People say, oh, wow, this is a company. It's not just Joe Schmo who has this blog, which is where I started, but it's evolved. And now I feel like, hey, I can say I'm a company. I'm able to offer that. So again, that's something you grow into. You don't just decide on a name and then you're like, hey, I'm gonna go get an LLC. Like, let's not jump it, because for me, I had to make sure I had enough to back it up, because there are fees involved and paperwork involved, and you don't want to decide you're going to change lanes or you're going to change names, you know. So there's a lot of growth that needs to happen before you go that route.
Yeah, we are an LLC as well. Because I needed to protect my money,
right?
You know, the personal from any litigation, which I've never heard of a school district to sue because you gave a bad, you had some bad workshops, but you never know, it could happen.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, so you know, we went the LLC route as well. So I kind of touched on this earlier. Is about marketing and branding. What was your process for selecting a logo and other branding materials? And how are you using digital content like your podcast to build your brand?
Great question. So I started out as Always a Lesson as my blog, and that was because whether I was teaching a lesson, I was always learning a lesson myself, you know, professionally and personally. And so that name just stuck with me. I thought it was great for educators who are teaching, but also learning as well. And I decided I want to keep that brand name in everything I do. So my Teachers Pay Teachers store is Always a Lesson. My podcast is Always a Lessons Empowering Educators podcast. I mean, even my business cards, everything's branded under that name. And I picked just a simple apple with Always a Lesson written over it because I didn't want anything too convoluted. And right now I'm deciding if I want to rebrand, and all that means is just get something that looks a little even more professional, that has specific colors that I'm always going to use. Because when you're just starting out, you just need something with a name on it, and then all this other stuff can come later. And I'm finally at that point that's like, okay, I'm ready to dress this up a little bit and maybe pay some money to have someone professionally come in and do my website and do my logo, which I haven't done yet. But I'm excited for where that's going to go. So that would be my advice there.
Awesome, awesome. And then you don't have to get that, you know, spend a lot of money. Of course, there are graphic designers out there that, you know, you'll pay by the hour, or, you know, they have these flat rates. But I actually, you know, on the recommendation of Sarah Thomas, as well as Dr. Jennifer Williams, I went to Fiverr and was able to get this dope logo, just straight beautiful and clean, professional, done with different sizes and with a vector file, so we can actually take this to another person who can make changes in the future. And I think it cost me like $20 to get all of that done.
Yeah, that's so worth it.
Yeah, so it was well worth the $20 investment.
Yeah,
to get that done. Before we go, this has been awesome. It's like the time has just gone by.
I know it has, so fast.
Yes. For that educator out there who they're watching the show, okay, they're like, this is nice. They've been following you. They've been to conferences. They've seen Eric Schenniger and Tom Murray and Angela Myers and other folks out there making that money. They want it too. I want it. You know what I'm saying? But they're thinking starting a business could be risky. What is your advice to them? What would you say to them to sort of get over the fear and to go ahead and make it happen.
Like I said, you've got to be in it for the long haul, and you need to do it step by step. So if it's not a burning desire in your heart, you don't need to be doing it. The money comes eventually, but certainly not right away, and not in the volume of a full-time or even part-time job. So I think having your expectations be a little more realistic is great. But I want you to decide today, what is it you want to do to help people? And that's what I do, is I help teachers. So who do you want to help, and what do you want to help them do? If you can answer those two questions, then think, how am I going to do it? And it could be through a blog, through a podcast, through a resource, whatever. Then you'll know, hey, I've got my audience, I've got my brand, and now I know how I'm going to deliver the message, and then get to work. If it's blogging, start writing those blog posts. Don't worry if no one reads them. You're just getting in the practice of, this is what my brand does. Every Monday I have a blog post, and you decide what it is, but it's small steps, and then reach out to Dr. Will or I, and we'll help you through the rest.
Awesome, awesome. Ooh, you just put it out there for me to help for the free. I always had this little thing I tell people. I say, I don't do anything for the free, but that's not true. Because on Twitter, you know, I'm very much a connected educator like yourself. And for anyone who's out there and they want to learn and look at some of our examples, you know, I would say that, you know, you are doing it big time, a lot, you know, bigger than I am. I'm still a little acorn, you know, trying to grow through that full mature tree, making it happen over there. So it's awesome. You know,
Thank you.
I was very impressed. You know, when I'm looking at your prices and how you have things priced. I said, that's nice. I said, I need to work that out and then put it on my website and get my stuff together, because I want people, and I know, you know, we talked about this, but, you know, it's one of those things to where you want to help people, but you also want to be valued and respected for your intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you don't want to take advantage of others, and you don't want for others to take advantage of yourself. So that's awesome. So thank you, Gretchen, for being a guest on the show. This is awesome.
It was good to chat with you again.
Oh yeah, I had a great time, people. Hey, you know how we do. This is going up on SoundCloud. This will be on iTunes. Leave a review. This is going to be on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe. And I'm going to put this up on my blog, www.thedrwillshow.com. And of course, LinkedIn. It's going to be awesome. You'll learn how to Gretchen and learn about some upcoming shows as well. So as always, people, invest in you. EDU. Peace.